Thursday, everyone. Hope you're doing good. I'm back with another story for today, and tomorrow will be Picture Book Friday. It's another one of my favorites. Can't wait to read it. I'll continue with some more G.K. Chesterton. This one is called On Lying in Bed. Some of you might be lying in bed right now. Lying in bed would be an altogether perfect and supreme experience if only one had a colored pencil long enough to draw on the ceiling. This, however, is not generally a part of the domestic apparatus on the premises. I think myself that the thing might be managed with several pails of aspinall and a broom. Only if one worked in a really great sweeping and masterly way and laid on the color in great washes, it might drip down again on one's face in floods of rich and mingled color like some strange fairy rain, and that would have its disadvantages. I'm afraid it would be necessary to stick to black and white in this form of artistic composition. To that purpose, indeed, the white ceiling would be of the greatest possible use. In fact, it's the only use I can think of a white ceiling being put to. But for this beautiful experiment of lying in bed, I might have never discovered it. For years, I have been looking for some blank spaces in a modern house to draw on. Paper is much too small for any really allegorical design. As Cyrano de Bergerac says, "Il me faut des gants." But when I tried to find these fine, clear spaces in the modern rooms such as we all live in, I was continually disappointed. I found an endless pattern and complication of small objects hung on a curtain with fine lengths between me and my desire. I examined the walls. I found them, to my surprise, to be already covered with wallpaper. And I found the wallpaper to be already covered with very uninteresting images, all bearing a ridiculous resemblance to each other. I could not understand why one arbitrary symbol, a symbol apparently entirely devoid of any religious or philosophical significance, should thus be sprinkled all over my nice walls like some sort of smallpox. I'm not a fan of wallpaper. The Bible must have been referring to wallpaper, I think, when it said, "Use not vain repetitions as the Gentiles do." I found the Turkey carpet a mass of unmeaning colors, rather like the Turkish Empire, or like the sweetmeat called Turkish Delight. I do not exactly know what Turkish Delight really is, but I suppose it's Macedonian massacres. Wherever that I went forlornly with my pencil or my paintbrush, I found that others had unaccountably been before me, spoiling the walls, the curtains, and the furniture with their childish and barbaric designs. So he's finding all these places that would be perfect for art, but they're always covered up with some wallpaper or curtains or something else that he is not fond of. Nowhere did I find a really clear place for sketching until this occasion when I prolonged beyond the proper limit the process of lying on my back in bed. Then the light of that white heaven broke upon my vision, that breath of mere white, which is indeed almost the definition of paradise, since it means purity and it also means freedom. But alas, like all heavens, now that it is seen, it is found to be unattainable. It looks more austere and more distant than the blue sky out the window. For my proposal to paint on it with the bristly end of a broom has been discouraged, never mind by whom, by a person debarred from all political rights. And even my minor proposal to put the other end of the broom into the kitchen fire and turn it into charcoal, that could not be conceded. He really, really wants to paint this. Yet I'm certain that it was from persons in my position that all the original inspiration came for covering the ceilings of palaces and cathedrals with a riot of fallen angels and victorious gods. I'm sure that it was only because Michelangelo had engaged in the ancient and honorable occupation of lying in bed that he ever realized how the roof of the Sistine Chapel might be made into an awful imitation of a divine drama that could only be acted in the heavens. So he's pretty sure that he's just like Michelangelo when Michelangelo was apparently lying in bed deciding he should paint the Sistine Chapel. The tone now commonly takes toward the practice of lying in bed is hypocritical and unhealthy. Of all the marks of modernity that seem to mean a kind of decadence, there is none more menacing and dangerous than the exaltation of very small and secondary manners of conduct at the expense of very great and primary ones, at the expense of eternal and public and tragic human morality. If there is one thing worse than the modern weakening of major morals, it is the strengthening of minor morals. Thus it is considered with more withering to accuse a man of bad tastes than of bad ethics. Cleanliness is not next to godliness nowadays, for cleanliness is made essential, and godliness is regarded as an offense. A playwright can attack the institution of marriage so long as he does not misrepresent the manners of society. Especially this is so in matters of hygiene, notably such matters as lying in bed. Instead of being as regarded as it ought to be, as a matter of personal convenience and adjustment, it has become to be regarded by many as if it were part of essential morals to get up early in the morning. It's upon the whole part of practical wisdom, but there's nothing good about it or bad about its opposite. So here he's thinking about like how morals of society gotten like twisted in his perspective, and like small things have become a big deal and big things have become small. And he's saying like it's worthwhile to lay in bed a little longer and not get up so early. Maybe you guys would agree with that. Misers get up early in the morning, and burglars, I'm informed, get up the night before. It's the great peril of our society that all the mechanisms may grow fixed while its spirit grows more fickle. A man's minor actions and arrangements ought to be free, flexible, creative. The things that should be unchangeable are his principles, his ideals. But with us, the reverse is true. Our views change constantly, but our lunch does not change. Now, I should be like men to have strong and rooted conceptions, but as for their lunch, let some of them have it sometimes in the garden, sometimes in bed, sometimes on the roof, sometimes on the top of a tree. Let them argue from the same principles, but let them do it in a bed or in a boat or in a balloon. This alarming growth of good habits really means a too great emphasis on those virtues which mere custom can misuse. It means too little emphasis on those virtues which custom can never quite ensure. Suddenly and splendid virtues of inspired pity or of inspired candor. If ever that abrupt appeal is made to us, we may fail. A man can get used to getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. A man cannot very well get used to being burnt for his opinions. The first experiment is commonly fatal. Let us pay a little more attention to these possibilities of the heroic and the unexpected. I dare say that when I get out of bed, I shall do some deed of an almost terrible virtue. So here he's thinking about how people, he's saying in his day, people are like very strict about their routines and like how they're having their lunch, where they're having meetings. Like they're very strict about that. But they're like back and forth about their morals and their virtues and like things that really matter to him, his perspective. So he's saying it should be the other way around. Like you should mix it up when you're having lunch and where you're going, and you can eat lunch on your roof instead of in your kitchen. But you should stick more strongly to those convictions that are maybe more important in the long run. For those who study the great art of lying in bed, there is one emphatic caution to be added. Even for those who can do their work in bed, like journalists, still more for those who cannot do their work in bed, for example, such as a professional harpooner of whales, it's obvious that the indulgence must be very occasional. But that is not the caution I mean. The caution is this: if you do lie in bed, be sure you do it without any right reason or justification at all. I do not speak, of course, of the seriously sick, but if a healthy man lies in bed, let him do it without a rag of excuse. Then he will get up a healthy man. But if he does it for some secondary hygienic reason, if it is for some scientific explanation, he may get up a hypochondriac. So he's kind of just encouraging people like, hey, mix it up every once in a while, enjoy some time in bed. It could inspire you. And sometimes people can work from bed, and I bet a lot of people are working from bed right now. People who are harpooning whales cannot. I guess they would have been essential workers back in their day. But I just thought this was such a clever essay written in 1909, and look, 110 years later, it's still pretty relevant. So the value of laying in bed. All right, so let's do a mystery. Okay, this one is called, oh, I lost my page. A Stamp of Suspicion. Thomas P. Stanwyck and the inspector, Matthew Walker, were chatting in the lounge of the Royston Chess Club after an arduous game. Any interesting cases on hand, Matt? Asked Stanwyck. Walker nodded. A robbery case involving a stamp collector. What's driving me nuts is that I think the victim may be lying, but I can't prove it. Really? Stanwyck arched his eyebrows. Please tell me about it. It happened, supposedly, 3 nights ago in one of the mansions up on the hill, Walker said. The owner, Avery Manlich, says that he was awakened about 2 a.m. by a noise downstairs in his library. Grasping a baseball bat, he crept downstairs and paused there to switch on the light to the foyer. He also called out, "Who's there?" in the direction of the library. To his astonishment, 2 men darted out of the library and ran out the front door into the night. By the time the shocked Manlich rushed to open the door, the men were gone. Only then did he go back to the library and find his safe cracked, and at least 10 trays of valuable stamps were missing. Just a moment, interrupted Stanwyck. While he was at the door, did he hear any car doors slamming or an engine starting? No, he didn't. The thieves escaped on foot. Did Manlich describe the thieves? Nothing very helpful. He said the men were dressed only in black, skin-tight leotards, black gloves, and black ski masks. As they ran out, both had their arms full with several trays of stamps. And what did your investigation reveal? The deadbolt lock on the front door had been sawed off, and the other lock on the door had been picked, and the safe, a rather sophisticated one, was expertly cracked. No fingerprints or other physical evidence was left, and according to Manlich, nothing but stamps were taken. The stamps were heavily insured, of course. Neither on the ground nor in the surrounding areas had we found any discarded ski masks or other traces of the thieves. And on what basis do you doubt Manlich's story? Walker made a wry face. Not much more than a gut feeling, I guess, he said. I've dealt with collectors before, Tom. Though usually normal in all other respects, they tend to be fanatical when it comes to their collections. This guy, Manlich, it seems to me, has been just a little too cool about the whole thing. Of course, it's nothing I could take to court. No, I suppose not, said Stanwyck with a smile. I think a more solid basis can be found, however, from your suspicions about Manlich. His story does contain a major flaw. What flaw did Stanwyck detect in Manlich's story? Okay, so what is something that he noticed in the story that makes him think that this victim of this burglary is not telling the truth? Okay, so guy lived in a mansion on top of a hill. He woke up around 2 a.m. when he heard the people. He grabbed a baseball bat and crept down the stairs, switched on the light in the foyer, yelled at them, and they ran out the door, and he saw 10 trays of stamps were missing. He's pretty sure they escaped on foot. They're all dressed in black. Both of their arms were full of trays of stamps when they left. The deadbolt lock had been sawed off. The other door lock had picked, and the safe was cracked. No fingerprints. They couldn't find any evidence like outside. And usually like people who got stuff stolen are like freaking out, and this guy was like pretty cool about it. What's missing in this story? What is he suspicious about? I will tell you. You ready? Okay. A deadbolt lock had been sawed off, a door lock picked, and a sophisticated safe cracked. What became of the saw, the lock pick, and the safe cracking tools? No tools were left in the study or carried in the thieves' arms or hidden on their persons, if they were in like these skin-tight leotards, or had been taken to an escape car. There was no escape car. If Malich's story were true, the thieves would have had to do the work with their bare hands, which was absurd. So if they didn't have like any evidence of like these saws or like stuff to pick locks, it's pretty hard to believe that they would have done that without any tools. And they didn't see if they couldn't have carried it because their arms were full of the stamps that were valuable and stuff. So that's a pretty good one. I think this guy could be onto something, this stamp thief. Okay, let's see what I'm looking at the riddles again. So, I don't want to. I keep flipping back to the same pages. Okay. What's the most romantic part of the ocean? The ocean. Where's the riddle? Where is it romantic? The spot where a buoy meets a gull. A buoy and a gull, like a seagull lands on a buoy, like a boy and a girl meeting. Yeah, that's a good one. Who does the ocean date? Who does the ocean date? This is romantic ocean riddle. The ocean goes out with the tide. The ocean and tide are dating. They go out together. Yeah, that's what I got today. So see you guys later. Have a good one.